All right, there we go. It's Yahoo Sports Daily. It's Tuesday, and we are ready to have an amazing morning with you. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. We're going to be here for the next couple hours, get you caught up on everything you need to know from last night, from today, from everything that's coming up all over the world. We are going to do all of it. But, Caroline, we will start the show as we start every single show. We'll start with 3 points. What is on your mind, my friend?
News update.
It is going to be an amazing morning after the best night in sports that we've had maybe all year long. We'll get to all of that. But obviously, we learned that James Franklin has been relieved of his duties at Penn State. Earlier, Sam Pittman was relieved of his duties at Arkansas. So what has been dominating our conversation is who are the candidates that are going to fill those positions. Of course, that's always the conversation that we're going to have after coaches get fired, especially mid-season. But what I feel like we're not talking about is who hasn't been fired. And that's Billy Napier at Florida. Now, let me just couch this entire conversation by saying I do not root for people to lose their jobs. I think so often we forget in sports that these are people, these are humans, these are, they have families, they have bills to pay. It's not just the head coach, it's also all of the staffers and the coordinators and the GAs. It's a big group that comes with the head coach. And I understand when a head coach is relieved of their duties, that there are a lot of things and a lot of hurdles that other people have to jump through. So let me just say, I don't root for people to lose their jobs. But what is Florida waiting for? If Penn State and James Franklin were able to lose 3 games, 2 back-to-back games as 20-point favorites, less than a year removed from the college football playoff, if Arkansas has seen enough of the Sam Pittman era at Arkansas, what more does Florida need to see? What more does Florida need to see to understand that Billy Napier is not holding the Florida football program to the level that it needs to be held to? Billy Napier is now 21-23 at Florida. That's including a loss at home against USF. That includes a loss to Vanderbilt before Diego Pavia came to town. When Dan Mullen was fired at Florida, he was 34-15 with a trip to the SEC championship game, and they couldn't get rid of him soon enough. Billy Napier now has a losing record, has had a losing record. Billy Napier has not had a single season above 500 in SEC play. I get it. Billy Napier is an awesome guy. Billy Napier is a great recruiter. Billy Napier got DJ Lagway to commit to the Gators. But Billy Napier is not holding the Florida football program to the level that it needs to be. Maybe Florida makes a bowl game this year. That'd be great. But the Florida expectations are not 6-6 with a trip to a bowl game. We're talking about Florida, one of the most historic programs in college football. We're talking about Florida, a fan base with national championship expectations. We're talking about Florida, a state with more football talent than maybe any other state in America. We're talking about Florida, the Florida Gators. This isn't the expectation in Gainesville. So I have to ask, what are you waiting for?
You're right. This is a different feeling Florida team, and they need to decide as a program. Do they want to keep Billy Napier, or do they want to, again, become nationally relevant at the highest possible level? Because I don't think you can do both at this point with what's happened in Florida. I'll go to my first point of the day. We got wide receiver news all over the NFL, so we'll get you updated on all of it. And it starts with Rashee Rice, who's back just in time for the Chiefs to take on my beloved Raiders. He served a 6-game suspension. It's now over. Now we'll see how he looks on the field, if there's any rust. But let's remember how important he is to this offense. Last time he played a full season, 2023, 79 catches, 938 yards, 7 touchdowns. Most importantly, he just adds an element to the offense that is so difficult and always has been. The Kansas City Chiefs offense is better when they've got somebody you just can't hold on to, because at the end of the day, Mahomes will make you make decisions in the back end of a defense. He will make you decide if you're going to come after him or if you're going to keep covering all the way through the whistle on a play. And the minute you make that decision, it makes you pay for that decision. This is part of why I've been telling you since week 1 that the Chiefs are going to be just fine, and we're going to find out this weekend exactly how fine they are when Rashee Rice makes his return to the field. And I think suddenly we see a much more explosive version of Kansas City, whose offense already looks like it's turned the corner in the last couple of weeks. So thoughts and prayers to the rest of the NFL. That's not the only big news we have from the injury standpoint. Emeka Ibuka is going to get an MRI on Tuesday. Now, what does that mean? That means that he's going to miss. We're presuming that he's not going to play this week. But look at that list there. Ibuka gets the MRI. Godwin is out. Evans could play against the Lions, but it doesn't look all that promising. Bucky Irving out. They could be playing against the Lions with basically nobody. If you didn't think Baker Mayfield already had high MVP odds, just watch what happens if Baker Mayfield manages somehow to will the Buccaneers to a win without Emeka Ibuka. Now, this is what I would caution everybody. Don't let whatever time lost here happens for Emeka Ibuka impact your thoughts on Offensive Rookie of the Year, because right now it is clear that the most impactful, the most important offensive rookie in the entire NFL, and it's not even close, has been Emeka Ibuka. So I don't care if he misses a few weeks. I don't care if he misses a month. It doesn't change the fact that the Bucs wouldn't be where they are right now if it weren't for the greatness he'd already accomplished. So let's remember that when we're deciding how to vote on the Rookie of the Year at the end of the year. And because that's not all the injury news we get at the wide receiver position, CeeDee Lamb is going to be back for the Dallas Cowboys, which has absolutely everybody over the moon. Now, think about this. Pickens last week, 9 catches, 168 yards and a touchdown in a loss to Carolina. But we all understand the way that this Cowboys team is built, which we will get to in today's show. The question of how you take this team on and how you defend them. And I would just remind you that even Dak is aware of it, as Dak made it very clear when he talked to The Athletic. He said, CD gets back and gets healthy. Good luck on how teams are going to play us. That's probably a pretty fair way to say that. Good luck, because as much as we've seen from George Pickens, let's remember that Pickens will now be the number 2 wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys because CeeDee Lamb is going to be that good. So not only will they get the same production out of a 1 that they've been getting with CeeDee on the bench, George Pickens will now be a matchup nightmare at the 2nd wide receiver position. The Cowboys' points are only going to explode. And for everybody that continually leaves the Cowboys for dead, I will remind you that through everything they've gone through so far this year, they're still in the thick of the playoff hunt. All right, that's the wide receiver update news. Let's get to the top point from the night, and it comes in the form of a Monday Night Football doubleheader. Bills, Falcons. Let's get to that one first, okay? Because let me tell you, I'm just going to stay straight up. I'm out. We said yesterday that this was going to be a prove-it moment for the Bills. The Bills proved it. The Bills proved that they are not really that team that anybody's scared of this year. They're doing a good job of beating up on teams that they should beat up on. They've played with their food a little bit. They've sort of sat there with teams they should have beat handily, and they haven't really done it. And we've excused the eye test every single week and said, no, it's going to be fine. It's Josh Allen. It's the Bills. Carolina, last night, it wasn't fine because it's only Josh Allen. I mean, at the end of the day, no matter what we say, like the offense for the Bills is give Josh the ball and just hope to God he can make something happen. That's not a sustainable way to go out and win a championship. I love the Buffalo Bills. I want the Buffalo Bills to go out and be this great story in sports. But to do that, they've got to have supplementary playmaking from somebody not named Josh Allen. And they don't, and they got their butts kicked because of it. I am out on the Bills being anywhere in that elite category that we want to constantly put Buffalo in.
And you bring up the term playing with their food. And that's what I've been saying about the Bills. So look, you have a light schedule. I get it. Sometimes it's easy to take your foot off the gas, but quit playing with your food. And maybe last night we learned that's not what they were doing. Maybe that's just who they are. Maybe that's just who Buffalo is. And I think I learned last night the Buffalo Bills are a heck of a lot closer to the Dallas Cowboys than they are the Kansas City Chiefs. Because what the Dallas Cowboys have been is Dak Prescott, and that's about it. That's what the Bills are. You can't rely on Josh Allen to be Superman every single night, and that's what they do. Because the Buffalo Bills don't have enough supplementary playmakers around Josh Allen. I mean, Keon Coleman is supposed to be their number 1, and he was kept in check for 3 catches for 11 yards last night. James Cook didn't move the ball well enough. And the Bills' defense, my gosh. Does anybody want to get a stop? Anybody interested in Buffalo in stopping the run? Because Bijan Robinson, all the credit in the world to Bijan Robinson. We will give the Falcons their credit here in just a moment. But Bijan Robinson ran for 9 yards a crack last night. Is anybody going to stop anything in Buffalo? So that's what Buffalo is. They're the Dallas Cowboys, a team with a quarterback that is playing at an elite level and nothing else. The expectation in Buffalo this year was Super Bowl. Not AFC Championship game, not making the playoffs, not winning the AFC East. The expectation, rightfully so, was Super Bowl. This team is not a Super Bowl contender. We'll see him in January because Josh Allen will make some thrilling plays, and Josh Allen will do Josh Allen things. The Bills, with their schedule, will win enough games to be represented in January. But this team is not a Super Bowl contender.
No, 100%. When I say I'm out, fine. You're going to beat up on a bunch of bad teams. You're going to go to the playoffs. Cool. But we all know what this season started like. This season started like expectations of Super Bowls for the Bills, and we've been waiting for it. And I feel like there's been more, I don't know, grace given to the process for Buffalo because everybody just likes the fan base so much. And you like the team, and you like Josh, and it just feels like they're sort of the underdog story that people gravitate to. It's like, oh, this is going to work out. It's going to be great. Don't worry about it. No, now it's time to worry because you just don't have the pieces. And you mentioned the other side. Let's get there. Like, I'm sorry. At this point, Bijan Robinson might be the best running back in the NFL. The number of times that the Bills had him, and it just doesn't matter. What the Falcons are doing a really nice job of is getting him the ball in space, too. So whether he's catching it or whether he's throwing it, he has space to make moves. The number of times he was like, you know what? No, you can't tackle me. You can't. Look at that. 25 touches for 238 yards and a touchdown. What we saw last night is that Bijan is maybe the most untackleable person in the entire league. And when we start talking about the greatness at the running back position, I know we love Saquon. I know we love Derrick Henry. I know that James Taylor's having a great year. And these are all great players, great running backs. You want to talk about somebody that just scares the you-know-what out of me every single time they touch the football? It's Bijan. Bijan, I think if he's not the best, at the very least, he's the scariest running back in the entire NFL, and he played like it last night.
I mean, I'm looking at Bijan Robinson, what he did last night at Drake London, 10 catches, 158 yards, and a touchdown. Bijan Robinson and Drake London look like the next great running back wide receiver duo. It reminds me of Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown in Tennessee, Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara in New Orleans, and what we're seeing right now in Detroit with the running back duo in Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like these great offensive weapons that we have seen in recent history in the NFL, like that is Bijan Robinson and Drake London. And that's not anything new to Atlanta, but all Atlanta has been missing over the last couple of seasons has been a competent quarterback to be able to let those two shine. Those two, Drake London and Bijan Robinson, who I think we need to start talking about in the elite category in their respective positions. What Michael Penix Jr. needs to do is take care of the football and put the ball in the hands of those two. And that's exactly what they did last night. If that's what they do offensively, and their defense continues to be a top 5 unit in the NFL, which they've quietly been, the Falcons are allowing fewer yards per game than any other team in the National Football League. Quietly. We're not talking about that enough. They got after Josh Allen last night. The pass rush was relentless last night. Josh Allen was under duress all last night. The secondary was fantastic. Like I mentioned, held those receivers in check for a majority of the game last night. So if Drake London and Bijan Robinson continue to do what we saw last night, and the defense plays at an incredibly high level, like why not the Falcons? Why can't the Falcons potentially be a playoff team?
Yeah, especially in an NFC South where they're going to have the opportunity to feast too. And all of this is happening while Michael Penix Jr. is out here developing. Like that's just we're watching the quarterback get better and better and better every single week while he has all of these weapons around him, and he's doing a great job of getting to those weapons.
It's the perfect environment to develop.
Yeah. Kudos. Like I can't do the thing as well as Harry Douglas. I never would pretend to, but man, you need to be doing it right now. Atlanta should be absolutely. Yeah, no, I should never do that again. That's a fact.
I'll work on that. Maybe doing that for the first time ever on air wasn't the best decision.
Yeah. In the future, I'll just get Harry to send us the thing, and we'll just play his version. I'm gonna stop doing it now. Let's get to the other Monday night game. The Bears beat the Commanders 25-24 in a game that, frankly, this was a weird back and forth game. Came down to the very end. The Commanders had the ball with the opportunity to really put the game on ice, try and put it away. And instead they fumble in wet, mucky conditions. The Bears get that fumble with about 3 minutes to go. They go down the field and they get the game-winning kick. And Caroline, this is why all summer we spent the summer yelling Washington was going to regress. Remember, a year ago right now, it was basically a year ago. It was late October. These same two teams played, and it was the Hail Mary, where one of the Bears players just walked off the field and a Hail Mary was completed. Washington gets a win. Chicago didn't win another game for the rest of the season. Washington went on a run. It was a transformative moment in the season for both teams. You flash forward to what we saw last night. And I thought the same sort of thing was going to happen. This is the sort of game that Washington won all year last year, but not this year. Not this year. This year, Chicago was able to make the play. And I think that's part of what we have to remember in the progression of whatever Washington is. Washington's 3-3. And it feels like one week they're great and the next week they're bad. Well, that's probably has a lot to do with where we came into this season. I feel like last night was the sort of game they won last year. It's the sort of game they're losing this year. And it's why most of us expected Washington to be a little bit lesser this year than they were last season.
And I would say the same thing about the Bears. This is a game that feels like the Bears typically lose, that it comes down to the kicker, Jake Moody, and gross rainy conditions. It feels like that's typically, a game that the Bears are going to lose. Like, it doesn't feel like, that big 15-yard run from DeAndre Swift to make it a much more manageable field goal. A 38-yarder is one that an NFL kicker should hit in their sleep. But that's not a 15-yard run that the Bears typically make to set up a more favorable field goal in gross conditions. Like, that feels like that's an end-of-game situation that the Bears will throw on the kicker from like 52, and it's like, hey, go out there and win it for us, even though there's 45-mile-an-hour winds coming in from the east. So that feels like, yes, to your point, a game that last year there was a little bit of magic that allowed games to go the Commanders' way. This year, this feels like it's the opposite with the Bears, that typically there's some weird, juju that happens where the Bears just lose games where they have an opportunity to win. This time it goes the opposite. But on the Commanders side of things, credit to the Bears. Good win for the Bears. On the Commanders side of things, like, I don't feel any differently about this Commanders team. I kind of feel the same way. I never really thought coming into this season the Commanders were legitimate Super Bowl contenders, but they were a good team. And last night, I think Jayden was still Jayden. The reason why I think the Commanders are a good team is because of Jayden Daniels doing Jayden Daniels things. They just shot themselves in the foot too many times. It was a gross, rainy, wet kind of game. That's a big reason for the fumble, the Bill Krosky-Merritt fumble, the kind of fumbled, handoff there. The ball was wet. The conditions were gross. That opens the door for the Bears to be able to win this game. Now, to that point, when you have an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter, that's a game that you should win. When you have a blocked field goal in the fourth quarter, that's a game that you should win. The Commanders just shot themselves in the foot and they made too many mistakes late.
I want to give Caleb some credit as we talk about that game, too, because Caleb didn't try and win it all back in one play. Like, Caleb stayed very calm. Caleb did a really nice job of executing this offense. So now I will ask you, we are sitting in a world where the Bears are 3-2, right? So the Bears are 3-2, but at the same time, we've also got the Falcons at 3-2. So which team do you think is more for real out of those two teams?
I think it's Atlanta. And frankly, Fitz, I don't really think it's all that close. And that is no disrespect to the Bears. But I just talked about an Atlanta team with a young, elite-looking running back, a young, elite-looking wide receiver, a quarterback that's developing but didn't commit the fatal flaw last night, and a defense that's top 5 in the NFL. I mean, like, those are all, like, boxes that are necessary to check in order to be a team that is, quote-unquote, for real. The Bears just feel a little bit too new. The Bears feel like the way that they're winning games feels a little like the ball is bouncing the right way for them. So I would say the Falcons, but that is not to say that the Bears aren't making the necessary progressions that they need to be making with a quarterback in year 2 and a coach in year 1.
Yeah, well, I think part of it for me has to do with who the Bears are going to be facing in their division throughout the course of the year, too. So the Falcons are in a division that, much like the AFC South, we thought the NFC South was going to be complete garbage. And instead, it looks like it might be 2 really good teams and 2 really bad teams in each of those divisions. So it's interesting how it hasn't turned out quite the way that any of us would expect it. I'm going to take this victory lap every single week for the rest of my life, I think. I just want to remind everybody that right now, the Chicago Bears are 3-2. And they are in last place in their division, tied for last place. The team in first place are the Green Bay Packers at 3-1-1, because a tie is the difference between being in first place and last place, because a tie is better than a loss. So the next time your team's aggressive and they go for the win and they lose, don't come at me and say, well, nobody wants a tie, because I will remind you, as I will every day, the Bears are in last place and the Packers are in first place in their own division because of a tie. That victory lap's never going to get old.
But ties aren't fun.
Yeah, well, you know what? You know what's fun?
On the
winning
fun
your division.
factor, the Packers lose.
You know what? Winning your division. Winning your division is what is fun. They're not having any fun in Tennessee today. Coming up next, the first head coach of the season in the NFL has been fired. What's next for the Titans? We'll figure it out. The last four quarterbacks taken number one overall have seen their head coach fired during their rookie campaign. It's not a misspeak. Trevor Lawrence, Urban Meyer fired during his rookie campaign. Bryce Young, we forget, Frank Reich, fired during the rookie campaign. Matt Eberflus was fired during Caleb Williams' rookie campaign. And now Brian Callahan has been fired during Cam Ward's rookie campaign. It's Yahoo Sports Daily, Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz. It is so staggering when you see this because this is what happens. And this is what's going to happen this year. If you're a Jets fan, like just go across the board. All the fans of teams that suck, the first thing that's going to come to your mind is, oh my God, I'll do whatever it takes to suck enough that we get a quarterback for the future. The last four teams that took a quarterback number one overall, their head coach didn't even make it through the following season. And I would ask, how many of those teams genuinely turned it around quickly? The Jags may have turned it around now, so we'll give them some credit. Carolina is looking a little bit better. But if your concept is, I'm going to draft a quarterback first overall and it's going to fix my franchise, Caroline, what we're learning is that most teams that draft first overall are so dysfunctional, they're just going to fire their coach.
Yeah, and let's make sure that we compartmentalize Urban Meyer in a completely different stratosphere of any other coach in the NFL. Because yes, Matt Eberflus and Brian Callahan and Frank Reich, they were bad coaches and they deserve to lose their jobs. Urban Meyer may be the worst hire in the history of the NFL. So let's make sure we don't get that twisted. And look, Brian Callahan is the most recent one to go. I think Matt Eberflus, it felt a little bit weird that he even was the head coach going into that season. Like it felt a little icky that they allowed Matt Eberflus to bring the Bears into the Caleb Williams era. I think with Brian Callahan that is upsetting, and I think probably the most disappointing thing is Brian Callahan was brought in to be an offensive guru. I was doing sports talk radio in Nashville, living in Nashville, covering the Titans every single day when Brian Callahan was hired in Tennessee. And everyone was so glad to see Mike Vrabel go because Mike Vrabel was a defensive-minded head coach. He wasn't very, creative or revolutionary on the offensive side of the ball. So Titans fans were really excited and encouraged to have an offensive-minded head coach. Remember, Brian Callahan was the offensive coordinator in Cincinnati under with Joe Burrow, under Zach Taylor. My concern was, okay, well, Zach Taylor calls plays in Cincinnati. How much of Cincinnati's success, if we're going to give a credit pie, how much of their path to the Super Bowl was because of Brian Callahan? How much of it was Zach Taylor? And how much was just Joe Burrow's one of the best quarterbacks on the planet? I think we're kind of seeing come to fruition now. Burrow is out for the next 3 months. Zach Taylor doesn't have a whole lot to do with the Cincinnati Bengals success. Now that we're seeing Brian Callahan away from Joe Burrow, well, Brian Callahan probably doesn't get a whole lot of that credit in Cincinnati. The Titans are one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the NFL statistically in every single offensive category. So that's the most disappointing thing, Fitz, is that you draft this quarterback who is supposed to be the beacon of light for your future. You bring in this offensive guru head coach, and your offense is absolutely terrible. And the Titans are averaging less than 4 yards a play.
The fact is, for most teams,
That's
your favorite
awful.
team's it's not your favorite team's quarterback. It's not the guy. It's your favorite team. Like, your favorite team sucks. Like, the Browns right now are 1-5. Baker Mayfield is 5-1. The Jets are 0-6. Sam Darnold is 4-2. Now, they had to make how many extra stops to get the stink of their drafting organization off of their entire body, right? Like, that's how bad it was. The Giants are 2-4. Daniel Jones over there 5-1. Like, so ask yourself right now, if you're a Browns fan, really, was it Baker? Was it ever Baker that was the problem, or was your organization the problem? Was it ever Sam Darnold that was the problem, or was it your organization that was the problem? And by God, with the Giants, was it Daniel Jones that was the problem, or was your organization the problem? And I realize Giants fans now have Jackson Dart. They don't care. You should. At some point, you just got to ask yourself about the development and the way it goes. And I think part of the problem, Caroline, is that you end up with coaches and GMs and quarterbacks that are all on different timelines. And I really do think I've cracked the code here, because Eberflus, you're right. Eberflus was on a different timeline than the rest of the Bears. Everybody knew he was dead man walking, but your quarterback isn't dead man walking. He's in season 1. I think when you draft a rookie quarterback, you need to put everybody on the same clock. Because what's going to happen now? Cam Ward is going to get a second offense in his ear of some sort from right now. Mike McCoy becomes their new interim head coach. Then they're going to hire another head coach next year, which will be Cam's second offense in 2 years, which is a less than ideal situation for a young quarterback that you knew needed some time to develop in the league. And then if that doesn't work, they'll fire the GM who will bring in somebody else, and you'll end up the path to Cam Ward being on his fourth offense coordinator in 5 years just feels like we just got step one. That's what's going to happen. That changes when you bring everybody in from day one on the same page, about the same things, the same way. I believe that if you want your team to stop sucking, and your answer is a quarterback, you need a GM and a coach and a quarterback that are all coming in together on the exact same timeline. And by God, I don't care what it looks like. We're going to give these three people the holy triumvirate, the trinity of it. We're going to give them all 4 years, 5 years together to mold something. Because otherwise, what you have in Tennessee is you have a coach that wasn't hired by this GM running a quarterback that they may not have investment in. So now they get rid of the coach and they'll bring in somebody else who may or may not like that quarterback. And then all of a sudden you end up with this cycle all over the place.
Yeah. Kevin O'Connell said, young quarterbacks don't fail organizations. Bad organizations fail young quarterbacks. And I believe that wholeheartedly. That if we look at some of these quote unquote busts over the last several years, first round quarterbacks, number 1 overall picks, it's fair to question, are they a bust because they weren't an NFL caliber quarterback, or because their organization didn't put the right infrastructure in place for a young quarterback to develop? And I think that Baker Mayfield is the perfect example that bad organizations fail young quarterbacks. And to your point about the timeline, this is now the 4th year in a row where the Titans have fired somebody in leadership. We go back to 2022, John Robinson, the general manager, was fired. They bring in Rand Carthon to be the GM to quote unquote collaborate with Mike Vrabel. And that was an epic disaster. So the next year, Mike Vrabel gets fired and Rand Carthon brings in Brian Callahan. The next year, Rand Carthon gets fired. So then they bring in Mike Morganzi to be the general manager to work with Brian Callahan. I don't think it ever works to bring in a GM with a sitting head coach, but that's now what the Titans have done twice. So, the Mike Morganzi comes in. Now Brian Callahan gets fired. That has all happened in the span of 4 years. How are you supposed to have, continuity or a strong foundation in an organization when it is a revolving door of thought processes, of philosophies, of brain power. That is it's inconsistent and it's unhealthy. So now Brian Callahan's gone. Mike Morganzi will have the opportunity to bring in the coach of his choosing. What happens if the coach of his choosing doesn't see immediate results in year one? Well, then Mike Morganzi gets fired. Then they bring in a new GM and the GM doesn't like that coach. And to your point, it is a constant turnover in Tennessee. And Cam Ward will have his second head coach, his second offense in 2 years. That's not terrible. It's not great. It's not ideal. Of course, you want health for your young quarterback, but I think we've seen, with Trevor Lawrence, with Caleb Williams and the progression that he's making so far, that's not the end of the world if a young quarterback in year 2 has a new head coach, a second head coach in 2 years. But this is your one crack at it. The Titans and Cam Ward cannot afford to get this hire wrong, because if they do, then you're looking at 3 head coaches in 4 years, 4 head coaches in 5 years, if Cam Ward even makes it that long. And if you have multiple head coaches in less than 3 to 4 years, Cam Ward's ruined. I was concerned about the Titans ruining Cam Ward with the moment that they drafted him. And there is nothing that the Titans have done to ease that concern of mine.
That's why, if you ask me, sorry, got something caught in my throat. There we go. That's why, if you ask me, Mike McCarthy should be the next coach of the Tennessee Titans. And I know Titans fans say, no. I love that we turned McCarthy into some abject disaster because he hasn't won enough Super Bowls in his career. He's 185, 123, and 2 as a head coach. But more importantly, he's done it. I think if you want to stop the cycle at some point, you need to bring somebody in with the experience to know how to just get an organization to base level. And I said this when Pete Carroll was hired, and I don't know how that's going to work with the Raiders, but I said at least they got somebody in the room that's an adult in the room. I heard some things about Antonio Pierce's time as the head coach of the Raiders that were stunning and shocking to me. Pete Carroll normalizes that. I think McCarthy could come into Tennessee and just be the adult in the room. He comes in with somebody that says, hey, this is how you do this. This is how we find the base level of just being a normal organization again. And also, he's somebody that's worked with great quarterbacks and knows how to get the best out of a quarterback. So I like McCarthy for this job.
I love that pick for McCarthy for you. I love that because I feel like what the Titans need right now is stability. And Mike McCarthy has a very long history of being a head coach in this league and can bring stability. If I'm going to show the opposite end of the spectrum, though, what about Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator in Buffalo? I think right now the most important thing for the Tennessee Titans is development and structure for Cam Ward. Well, who better to bring structure for Cam Ward than an absolute offensive guru in Joe Brady that's been successful everywhere he's been, except for the Carolina Panthers. But I think that was probably more a Carolina Panthers problem than it was a Joe Brady problem. And we're seeing that in all of the other stops that he's been. He brought LSU to the mountaintop in 2019. He was a big He was a big part of the brain power of that 2019 LSU team, and now he has brought the Buffalo Bills. Been a huge part of the Buffalo Bills being now should have been Super Bowl contenders. Doesn't look like it after last night. But the development of Josh Allen being where he was as a developmental prospect to now an elite quarterback in the NFL. I think Joe Brady and his just offensive brain power would be a perfect fit with Cam Ward. A concern, he's never been there before, and he'd be taking over a true abject disaster and dumpster fire. Is he willing to take on that challenge? There's only 32 of these jobs.
I do think the Titans will want a sexy name considering they're about to open a multi-billion-dollar stadium in downtown Nashville. Okay, let's get into Major League Baseball. It was a massive night last night. Big Dumper did big Dumper things, and we were up too late watching one of the most dramatic endings I can remember. We'll tell you about all of it next. Welcome back to Yahoo Sports Daily. The Mariners currently give me 2019 Nationals vibes. They have the it thing, which there's no real way to explain. It just happens. Tim Flaherty said something to me once, and I'll never forget after the Giants won in 2010. Sometimes it's just your time. We watched Seattle win last night by a touchdown. Wrong sport, same score. 10-3 in a big win over Toronto. And it was a game that, frankly, Caroline didn't even feel that close. The Mariners felt like they were just out there like a cat, just pat, 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 with one of those little things. Like the Mariners just went out there and they did the damn thing. Is this a team of destiny to you?
They did the damn thing. I mean, they swept the Blue Jays in Toronto. And frankly, Fitz, I would not be surprised if this series doesn't even go back to Toronto for the Blue Jays to have the opportunity to defend home turf. Are the Mariners a team of destiny? That feels like we're patronizing the Mariners just a little bit, because a team of destiny feels like a Disney Channel story, this plucky little story of underdogs that prevails. I think the Mariners are better than that. But I will say, I think the Mariners are America's team. Not a team of destiny, but America's team. I mean, the Mariners have, one of the best players in the sport this season, who has been, rewriting the record books in Cal Raleigh. The Mariners have dominated the ALCS. But the Mariners are also so incredibly likable. Like, it is so easy to fall in love with this team. I'm not a Mariners fan, but you better believe that I am sat on my couch watching the Mariners and rooting like I've been a Mariners fan my entire life. I've never even been to the city of Seattle, but you bet your bottom dollar I'm a Seattle fan whenever the Mariners are on TV. It's the Cal Raleigh story. It feels like, this Mariners team that does just feel like it's so likable and easy to root for. So I will say the Mariners are America's team above all else.
Yeah, I think you're right. The Team of Destiny moniker implies to me that, you know what, I'm not sure how they're winning. They're just winning. I think we're pretty sure how they're winning. They're just clearly the better team in these first two
They're
games.
clapping them.
And the first game you and I talked a lot about was just like, I thought the Mariners got out early and it was a little bit of a sigh of relief for them. It allowed them to just play free and they were great. This game, they just whooped the snot out of them. Like this was never in question. And you're right. Take a look at the MLB playoff format. Obviously, it goes 2-3-2,
That's good.
right? So
that's a funny graphic.
That is well done. You've got 3 straight games now in Seattle. So you're going to go to one of the most raucous environments in all of sports for a city and a franchise that is starved for this opportunity. And you're going to play 3 straight games there. The Blue Jays are dead. Like this thing's over. And I am a beacon of light in a dark, dark world most of the time. I want to always think there's a chance. I don't know how you walk back. You lost 2 games 2 very different ways. The first game, you can look at it and say, okay, we were right in this thing. It just didn't go our way. The second game, you're at home and you just, you didn't even give your fans reason to stick around past about the 6th inning. This was wild to me to see that outcome. So I think they're clearly in control. What about the other series? And I say the other series because last night we had the craziest double play I've ever seen in my life. We had a game that I thought, and when I picture this, I just shut everything down. I'm like, I'm just going to watch the 9th inning in bed. This thing's going to be over. Before you know it, I'm sitting there. I'm mesmerized. I'm like, how the hell did they get the bases loaded? Like, the Brewers had the bases loaded and the opportunity to get it done, and they lose to the Dodgers in just epic fashion, Caroline.
Yeah, the classic 8-6-2 double play, one that we see all the time, right? And it was, and when they showed on the broadcast, he was mouthing what the bleep just happened. Like, you could read his lips very, very well, very easily. You don't have to be a lip reader to be able to do that. But that's what I was saying too. What the bleep just happened? I had to go back and rewatch the replay several times to figure out what in the world just happened. It was such a weird and fluky kind of play where, the ball bounces off the wall, but then into the outfielder's glove, and then he throws it home, and then the guys on base don't really know what's happening. So Contreras, all he has to do is just run to third and get the tag. Like, wild, wild play. But you get that where the baseball gods are in your favor, where the weird voodoo that happens in postseason baseball goes your way, and you're still not able to win that game. Late in the game, like you said, in the 9th inning, bases are loaded. You're only able to bring one home. Like, it just feels like when all of the odds are in your favor, when sometimes the wind can blow one way or another, and that's the difference in a win or a loss. And the wind blew your way, and you're still not able to get into the win column fits. It just feels like, oh, like that is such a tough out for this Brewers team that already felt a little bit like the underdogs going up against the big bad Dodgers. I know they're not in the standings. I know the Brewers had the best record in baseball. Like, I know on paper the Brewers are not the underdogs. But it feels like it. It feels like anybody would be an underdog against this Dodgers team.
Look, I mean, at the end of the day, on top of all that, we go into the ninth, and we got Sasaki out there, and he, got a couple of walks, and boom, he's pulled, and it just everything felt like it was falling apart for the Dodgers, and they won.
Yes,
which is why I continually go back to you have to play perfect baseball and then get a little bit lucky if you really want to beat the Dodgers in a 7-game series. And that's just not going to happen. I think this was a back-breaking Game 1 win for the Dodgers simply because everything that could have gone the wrong way did, and they still get that win. All of the magic from the baseball gods resulted in absolutely nothing for the Brewers. Like, hey, you can look at this and say, oh, my God, what an epic first night. I look at it and say, oh, my God, if you didn't win that one, how are you going to win this series? And I think the answer is you aren't. Like, the Dodgers just reminded us that while we find excellence to be blasé more often than not in this society, the way that they played in that matchup, I feel more confident today in the Dodgers winning this series, and I think winning it quickly and efficiently than I did 24 hours ago.
And the credit to Blake Snell, 8 innings, only gave up 1 hit.
Massive,
I mean, my concern about this Dodgers team was their depth in the bullpen. Well, when you have Blake Snell and your starter going 8 innings and having that kind of night and that kind of stat line, like, you don't really, that one vulnerability that you have isn't going to hurt you in a game where it looked like it was going to. Because I, in a moment, was thinking, you're going to have an outing like that from your starting pitcher and then blow it in the 9th because you have no one that's reliable to close games out. But, to your point, yeah, Dodgers found a way to prevail.
Well, and let's remember, the Brewers had the bases loaded, and they had an opportunity. In fact, it looked like at the plate, they could have gotten hit. It looked like there was a moment where if you just sit in, the pitch was going a little inside, and by a little inside, I mean a lot inside. And he got out of the way and said, you see the graphic there. The instinct is to get out of the way right there. And I will never fault the instinct of getting out of the way in the pitch. But if he just stands in and takes that pitch with the bases loaded, we got a tie game. Like, that's how close this came down to get out of the way of something that would seriously hurt me. But if he stands there and takes the pitch, it's a tie game.
That's one that I'm sure Bryce Terang is thinking, what did I just do? Because, right, like human instinct is get out of the way of the floating ball of concrete coming 100 miles an hour at my hamstring. Like, yes, that is what, your human instinct thinks. But if he just stands there, because the ball's coming right for his leg, if he just stands there, maybe the Brewers win this game. So, you can play the coulda, shoulda, woulda game all day long, but that was the difference in that game. Like the difference between Bryce Terang just standing in the batter's box versus avoiding a ball that's coming right to him. That was the difference between winning or even going to extras and losing. Ooh.
Yeah, and anytime you're going to extras,
at home, nonetheless,
going to extras against the Dodgers when you're not sure what some of that pitching is going to look like, feels like it would have been an advantage for him. But instead, they lose game 1.
Out.
And now they got the backs up against the wall. They got to figure out how to get game 2. Otherwise, they're going to be in the exact same situation that Toronto is in. All right, coming up, the Cowboys take a big loss over the weekend. The question is, now are they buyers or sellers at the trade deadline? Jerry Jones did not talk after Sunday's loss to the Panthers. It is news because it's out of the ordinary for the Cowboys owner. Trust me, he's now spoken, and you can't wait to hear what he had to say. But in the meantime, let's take a look at the fact that he didn't talk. Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitch, Yahoo Sports Daily, because that loss got to the Cowboys' typically chatty owner. We all know that he was kind of quiet after that. So the question is, now, with that loss, where the Cowboys are, knowing their defense is broken, knowing how bad it is, no team has ever in NFL history had the number 1 offense and the number 32 defense in the same year. Cowboys might be trying to go for history. So with that in mind, should they, in your mind, be buyers or sellers at the trade deadline, Caroline?
Buy. Buy. You just say adopt an in-sync buy. That should be exactly what the Cowboys mindset is. Go all in, push every single chip that you have into the middle and buy and do whatever you can to make this defense just 10% better. Because it is not every single year that you get MVP caliber performances from your quarterback. And that is exactly what the Cowboys are getting from Dak this season. We cannot take that for granted. We are seeing way too much bad quarterback play in the NFL to just assume that you're going to get that from Dak next season or at another point in his career, especially at the stage in his career that he is at right now. So you are getting championship level offense, elite offense, top offense in the NFL kind of production for your quarterback. And that is even without some of his top targets completely healthy. So if you get CeeDee Lamb back in 100% and Dak continues to play at the level that they're at, but they're giving up 40 points a game, what's the point? What's the point of having a quarterback playing at that level, putting up 38 to 40 points a game if you're just going to give up 38 to 40 points a game? Put all of your chips into the middle. What's the point of saving draft picks or any kind of, equity that you have in your back pocket? What's the point of saving that for another day when you can actually capitalize on that right now? Because if you put all of your chips into the middle and you fall short, then you can say, well, we tried. We saw what we had. We saw the performances that our quarterback was putting up, and we did everything that we could to capitalize on that performance. What good are draft picks if you just save them for a rainy day? They're not going to help you now. If you just have draft picks in the 2026 and 27 drafts, which is what the Cowboys have from the Micah Parsons trade, how does that help you now when you now are in a window offensively?
No, see, I totally disagree because this thing's over. At some point, if your answer is fix the defense, I think the
No.
Cowboys are going to the playoffs. But if your answer is fix the defense, it's not going to happen. Yeah, let me. All right, before Amazon was a thing for the world, hear me out. Before Amazon was a thing, you really had to go Christmas shopping, right, Caroline? And the number of years in my life that I was out on the road and I was working and I would get home on like December 23rd. And so all of a sudden you realize I have less than 24 hours and I have to do something right now. Inevitably, what you do when you go Christmas shopping at the last second, you go to the mall, is you pay double the value for a bunch of junk. And then they wrap it for you because you're not going to have time for it. And then so like everything's wrapped and you're like, fine, I got Christmas figured out. And then you're sitting there on Christmas morning as these presents are being opened and you realize, man, I paid a lot for a bunch of stuff that sucks and nobody likes. That's what you do when you pay at the trade deadline. I don't think there's a single player that would logically and realistically be available to the Cowboys that they could bring in that would fix their defense. I think they have so many holes on the defensive side of the ball that whatever they're doing right now would be the equivalent of Christmas Eve, 6 p.m. I'll pay whatever it takes. Just give me something. And then the next day she opens it and it's like, I thought you were going to get me a diamond ring. Sorry, honey. All they had available was a chia pet. I don't think that the Cowboys should pay first-round draft picks for chia pets. It's not going to fix anything. Whatever hole they're in today is the hole that Jerry put them in. It's a hole that they're going to be in, and it's a hole that simply won't get fixed until the offseason. Whether the Cowboys like it or not, they're screwed. I say this because I still think that the Cowboys are about to be unstoppable offensively. I think the Cowboys are still going to the playoffs. But if your answer is, how do we fix the Cowboys at the trade deadline? The answer to that is, you don't.
I love a chia pet, first and foremost. It's not quite a diamond ring,
Chia pet.
but it is very fun. Chia. To use that analogy, What if you didn't unbox anything on Christmas? You say, sorry, I was busy. I didn't get a chance to. Nothing good was available. My response would be, I'd take a chia pet. Like, I would take a note written in crayon on a Post-it note because that's better than nothing. And that's kind of how I feel about the Dallas Cowboys. If you don't do anything, you are sending a message to your fan base that, well, we don't really care about what Dak is doing. We don't really care that much about winning because there's nothing good enough out there. Like, I don't think the Cowboys have to sell the farm for a bunch of crap. If it's not available, it's not available. If you don't feel like, what the asking price is adequate, then you're not going to pay a price that you don't want to pay. But there are a lot of bad teams out there. There are a lot of teams out there whose seasons are very much so done. So why not pick up the phone and call some of those teams? Cough, cough, the New York Jets. Cough, cough, the Cincinnati Bengals. Cough, cough, the Tennessee Titans. Those are bad teams with good players. Sure, maybe you have to pay more at the trade deadline than you would have had to in February or March or April. But isn't that the price that you have to pay to be a legitimate contender? Let's just say, in a world, I didn't do it as good as you do, but I'm trying.
It was a good try.
Thank you. The Cowboys have, I don't know, Quinnen Williams. I don't know, Jeffrey Simmons. I don't know, actual legitimate good starting defensive players in the National Football League. I don't know, Micah Parsons, but who would trade Micah Parsons? I digress. But if the Cowboys have one run stopper, if the Cowboys have somebody to get after the quarterback, if the Cowboys have a couple more pieces in their secondary that can win some one-on-one battles with average receivers in the National Football League, that can make their defense 10 to 15% better. If their defense is 10 to 15% better, they don't tie with the Packers. They beat the Packers. If the Cowboys defense is 10 to 15% better, maybe they hold teams to, 32 points instead of 40. Dak can put up 40 points on any given night. Dak can put up 35 points on any given night. And a game of inches, don't you think being inches better makes a difference?
All right, so now they trade first-round equity to get however they do it. Now I want to live in this world where they get Trey Hendrickson, Jeffrey Simmons, and Quinnen Williams. They just give up first-round picks for the next 5 years. They trade CD and some other considerations over to the Browns, and they get Myles for it, and they completely rework their defensive line all at the trade deadline. You talked me into it. You're right, because getting a Chia Pet's better than not getting anything at all.
It's fun to unbox things.
Yeah, but nobody's really happy about a Chia Pet. I don't care what anybody says, unless Chia Pet becomes a sponsor on the show, in which case we are very happy about Chia Pet.
Chia Pets. Yes.
Will the Cowboys be offensively? Will they become unstoppable, though? But CD's about to come back. That means CD is suddenly combined. We've got all these elements together. Do you believe that will be the chef's kiss that at least gets the Cowboys back to a spot where their offense is so unstoppable that they're just going to be able to rail off some wins, even if their defense is hot garbage?
Aren't they already there?
That's fair.
Aren't we already in the Cowboys offense is unstoppable kind of world? Because the Cowboys right now put up more yards per game than any other team in the NFL. They're number 2 in passing. Now, their rushing attack doesn't really match their passing attack, but the rushing attack is still in the top half of the NFL. Can the Cowboys offense be unstoppable? Heck yeah. It's already there. And then if you insert a more healthy CeeDee Lamb, that's even more unstoppable. We're already in that category of unstoppability for the Dallas Cowboys.
Maybe the Cowboys just stopped themselves. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but Jerry Jones had plenty to say about the loss to Carolina, not after the game, but on his radio appearance when he was on 105.3 The Fan. Apparently he said Carolina was easy to overlook as a formidable matchup with us. Huh. Easy to overlook. So Jerry just admitted that his team was asleep at the wheel for a trap game against Carolina when his team has the entire season ahead of it. When the Cowboys aren't really in a situation to trap anyone. When Rico Dowdle is out here saying, hey, buckle up, you're telling me that the Cowboys looked at the buckle up quotes, and most of the time we're like, oh, that locker room's going to be fired up. They looked at the buckle up quotes, laughed, and decided not to really come to work on Sunday? Man, Jerry, if you actually believe that your team just overslept this matchup, basically, you got even bigger problems in your defense. You got cultural problems that are all the way top down that you're not going to be able to fix at all.
Yeah, there are just some things that you don't say out loud. That's one of those things. Overlooking an opponent. This is the NFL. Okay, the NFL. Anyone can lose on any given Sunday, especially to a team that put up 7.5 yards a crack on the ground the week before. And you, Jerry, were the one talking about how we need to stop the run whenever you traded Micah Parsons. You know your defense can't stop the run. And we had a Rico Dowdle that put up 206 yards against the Miami Dolphins. What do you mean they weren't a formidable opponent? Like, that is so embarrassing to even think, to even have that mindset, much less say it out loud on the radio. Embarrassing.
I'm going to need that, Jerry Jones, one more time from you.
We need to stop the run. He definitely doesn't sound that old. Like, he's not that downtrodden, but
I don't know. That was pretty spectacular work by you.
We need to stop the run.
All right, that's going to be stuck in my head. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to somebody that knows plenty about stopping the run. We will do it next on Yahoo Sports Daily. You see the tweet there? We've reached a historic agreement with the city of Cleveland to accelerate the lakefront transformation and strengthen our partnership with them as we continue progress in Brook Park. That for the new Browns stadium that looks like it's going to be coming in 2029. We're joined now by a Cleveland Brown that knows plenty about this. In his fourth NFL season, having the best start of his career yet, Alex Wright joins us. Alex, man, I really appreciate your time. When players see announcements for new stadiums, do you guys get juiced for this sort of thing?
Sometimes, I mean, we just try to focus on, like, the season at hand, but we know, like, in the near future, like, okay, this is going to be a cool experience just to come across. So, them showing us the rendering of it, it was like eye-opener just for what all the stadium could be, like, open to as far as, like, festivities or, like, concerts or just, like, just something for the community. So just seeing that and just all the access it has, it was real cool to see.
All right, you mentioned you stay focused on the game, which you should. 2025 right now, you're off to an incredible start. 2 sacks, 4 tackles for loss. You're absolutely killing it. What's helped you level up this season?
Just the confidence and just the determination of, like, just leaving stuff on the table of last year with my injury. So just having that that self-awareness, just looking myself in the mirror every day, just telling myself, you got what it takes to be one of the best defenders in the league. Just don't think too much about, the future. Don't think too much about the past. Just live in the now. Just live in the moment. And just do what you can to take care of yourself, recovery-wise, mental-wise, physical-wise. Just make sure you just show up and do your job. So I don't really put too much on it. At the end of the day, this is a kid's game. You just want to have fun at the end of the day. So that's what my main focus was: just do your job, but also have fun at the same time. So once I started having fun, it was like, okay, now we got the ball rolling.
Yeah, and it has been so fun for us as fans watching your side of the ball. I mean, that Browns defense is absolutely nasty. And you talk about becoming one of the best defenders in the NFL. Well, you are now playing alongside one of the best defenders in the NFL in Myles Garrett. And I'm sure you've picked up a lot from him. And he, spoke with the media after the game on Sunday, sounded pretty down, and he did say that yes, it is getting harder to dig deep even amidst the losing, staying locked in. Are you feeling the same? How do you feel now getting off to this start in the season?
Man, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I do feel the same way because we put in the work in practice. We put in the work in the film room. We put in the work, together off the field. So it's just like not seeing it come into like fruition, on Sundays, it can be frustrating. It can be not positive. It can be negative at times. But the thing is, one thing about us as a D line and as a defense, and even as offense, sometimes we all have our struggles. And the thing is, we just got to stay together. So once we stay together, just count on each other. And I always tell myself, we just gotta hold ourselves accountable. I feel like if your own peer holds you accountable rather than your coach holding you accountable, it just feels a little different. For if Myles come to the bench and tell me, I got to do my job better. I'm out there in battle with Myles. You know what I'm saying? So hearing that is just like, okay, that hits where it hurts, especially if you care. So just for the start of the season, it hasn't been what we wanted, but the thing is, the season is not over. It's not like the last game was last week. It's not like the last game is next week. We still got time to turn this thing around.
You also have a great defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz. Everybody respects him so much. What's his message been to you guys, considering the offense has struggled at times and the pressure that puts on you as on defense?
We gotta keep being ourselves, man. We can't get down. That's the thing. Sometimes things happen in the game. It's the NFL. Something that you don't want to happen is going to happen. So whether that's a turnover, whether that's another 3-and-out, whether that's just something that's negative that happened, we can't let the change of momentum happen because at the end of the day, we hold ourselves accountable, and as we got to tell ourselves, hey, let's put a stop to this thing. Let's get the ball back to the offense. So for him, his big key was don't get down on in certain moments of the game because it's going to happen regardless. We can't change anything about that. Just control what we control, and that's just getting the ball back, and that's just stopping the offense. So big ups to Coach Schwartz. That's just always been something that he's preached. Just seatbelts off. Look, calm down. We're gonna get this thing sorted out, and that's just all it's been. So.
Well, let's look at the other side of the ball. There's a new QB1 in Cleveland. Dillon Gabriel has taken over the starting role. What's he like as a person, as a competitor in the locker room? How has he been taking over this role?
As a rookie, you'd be surprised. I consider myself, a young vet to consider the fact the age that I came in, and just to see him, his preparation to the game. Um, I would come in, like he would be like the one of the first people in, one of the last people to leave, like just working on mechanics and stuff with like the assistant coaches. You see it like we'll be at lunch, or we'll be getting ready to go leave, or I'll be getting to go home after meetings and stuff, and he'd be out there with like just Cisco just going through just cadences, calls, just walking through his steps and stuff like that. So for him to be, that type of person, he takes the game very serious. And as a person, he's a lot. He speaks to everybody. It doesn't matter if you're defense, special teams, whether you're the lunch ladies, whether just him being that type of kid, just come in with a smile on his face and just know he's, just happy to come to work. I know he doesn't take it for granted. I know, yesterday is not the game that he thought he would have played, but at the end of the day, he's a person that is willing to flush it down the drain and get back to work. That's the thing I respect about Dillon. And I could tell him that, and I told him that last week in Minnesota, I gave him, a fist pump, after the game, and I told you keep your head up. At the end of the day, this is the NFL, and this is how it's gonna work. Sometimes what's gonna happen is not gonna happen. Uh, Sometimes things don't work out the way you want to. It's not gonna be easy. It's not gonna be, just as simple, So at the end of the day, I respect the way he puts his head down and work, and it's the consistency at that. So anybody can, put in the work 3 days and then just not do it the fourth day and then come back the fifth day. No, it's every day with him.
So let's have an honest moment, Alex, because I think everybody with a microphone has spent, 6 months yelling about Shedeur? I've never seen this much attention to a backup or third-string quarterback ever in my life. How much of it even makes it to you guys? Like, what of this Shedeur conversation, are you guys feeling it? You guys hearing it? What impact does it have to you?
I mean, we just focus on me personally. Like, I can't speak for anybody else. I can't speak for the offense. I just speak for what we have to do on defense. As much as it's not hard to ignore because it's everywhere. I mean, at the end of the day, me personally, I could just speak for myself on that. And Shedeur, he's one of those type of person. He's a high I say high vibrational. Like, he's always smiling, he's always positive, he's always laughing, he's always, if somebody's down, he's talking his trash, just to get people to, lighten their spirits and stuff like that. So just for him to, keep a smile on his face, I know with him, just like Dillon's preparation, whenever the time comes, if the time comes, he'll be ready, to step into that role. But I just feel like, I don't really pay attention to the QB situation. I just feel like as a defense last year, we didn't do our part. So my job and my main focus was to get the defense back on track this past year, from this past year to now. So I don't really have too much to say about that, So it's kind of, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and this is such an exciting rookie class, even outside of Dillon and Shedeur. You're looking at Mason Graham, Quinton Judkins, Dylan Sampson, Harold Fan, and I know I'm missing some, but this is such a fun rookie class, at least from our standpoint, from watching and observing and covering this team. What kind of impact has this rookie class had on the vets in the locker room?
The fact that they're willing to come in and just work, not only work like rookies, but work like vets.
Yeah.
And you can tell there's not a drop off. And just like I seen Myles said, just because they're young, we're not the standard is still the same. Like, we're still here to win games. We're still here to do our job individually and as a team, and it's our job to hold them accountable and show them the ropes and the time management of being in the NFL. So for them as a whole rookie class, though, they're taking it on well. Quinton, he's running the ball well. Mason, he's off to a great start as a rookie. Carson is a dog. He's a commander of the offense, and for him to be a rookie, he's a commander of the defense. And for him to be a rookie, and you see how he just pops out on tape, it's kind of like, okay, you wouldn't even think he was a rookie. You wouldn't think Mason was a rookie. You wouldn't think Quinton was a rookie. You would think Harold was a rookie. Like, it's just like, this is probably the most exciting rookie class that I've been able to witness in a long time, because everybody is able to, produce at a high level, and I have no problem with it. So, and just personality wise, it's like you have your different personalities. You have, like, Aiden he's kind of like the little brother. Kashawn is like the mature one, the quiet one, but he handles his business. Mason is kind of like, he's quiet, but he jokes around and stuff like that. Like, it's the age is there, but once once it's time to get on the field, it's like, you don't feel like they're rookies. You feel like they've been here before. So that's the thing that I'm proud of them about.
And it feels like it just watching this team. And, speaking of the rookies, do you feel like, because you say, they don't act like rookies, they don't work like rookies, they work like veterans. Do you think that being a successful rookie has more to do with the player himself and the intrinsic motivation, or is it the infrastructure in place in the organization?
I mean, I just feel like kind of both. I feel like, just because, you get drafted or and this is what I kept with myself. Just because you got your feet in the door doesn't mean, oh, it's everything is all fine and dandy and stuff like that. No, you have to work. You have to work. You have to work, and you have to work to keep your place on this team. It doesn't matter who you are. So I just feel like, yeah, at the end of the day, that's all it really just comes down to. Like, just staying humble and staying in the playbook. And if you do everything, right, then everything will turn out good for itself. But it's just simple things like that. If you don't stay in the playbook and if you don't do what you're supposed to do, then there's no way you could get on the field. So I mean, other than that, just they've been doing a good job. They all been positive, all positive feedback. They all here to work. They all here just being sponges. So I just feel like they can continue to do what they've been doing and everything will work out for itself.
You guys have Miami coming up on Sunday. You just started all your prep for that. What excites you about this matchup?
Just getting another opportunity to play the game of football. Me personally, I don't take it for granted. Especially being out for the season last year. I don't really, I just look forward to it as, this is another game that I'm healthy enough to play. And people ask, how you feeling? I say I'm healthy. I'm healthy. I'm ready to roll. I'm good. I'm positive mentally. But it's also a game where, we just have to get back on track. And I feel like just a one win will put us back on track of, who are we supposed to be. So I know Miami, they obviously have the same record as us, obviously has struggles down there in Miami. But at the end of the day, we just focus on ourselves and just trying to get ourselves back on track. So I can't wait to Sunday. Matter of fact, I can't wait to, after this so I could, start my film study and start my preparation. So,
man, I will speak for the show. Our producer, Michael Farber, is a huge Browns fan. He was wildly excited you're coming on. We've been watching you all season. It's been fun to watch you kick ass all year, dude. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Know you're busy. We appreciate your time. Keep crushing it this season. We know you will.
man, appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you so
Alex
much,
Wright
Alex.
joining the
Appreciate
show.
it.
And I'm telling you, that Browns defense is fun to watch. And they're in a division with the Steelers. Is it time for us to admit that the Steelers are actually contenders? One of us says no. You'll hear about it next. Aaron Rodgers in his first 5 games in Pittsburgh, 1,022 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, 4-1, first in the division. And it just looks like the AFC North is primed to be interesting. I would say that. We came into the year, many people thinking the AFC North was primed to be very good. Instead, it's like, when she comes in the dress and says, how's this look? And you say, Interesting. I think that's a better way to describe the AFC North right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 4-1. So, Caroline, is it good or is it interesting? Are you taking them seriously?
They're interesting. It's like, when your friend tries to set you up with someone and they're like, oh, they're cute.
Mm-hmm.
They have a good personality. They're so funny. That's how I feel about the Steelers. And I do feel bad feeling that way about the Steelers because they just continue to win. I was so apprehensive about this team. I had so many questions about this team, and they continue to win. They are now leading the division, yet I still can't be like, yep, okay, definitively the Steelers have the fast track in the division, because that's probably the truth. That's probably where we are right now, is the Steelers do have the fast track to win the division. I think right now, because I don't really know what to think about this team. I don't really know how to categorize this team. They're not a bad team, but they're not an elite team. Are they a good team? I think where I am right now with this team is Aaron Rodgers is not as flashy or as sexy of a player as he used to be, but he's getting it done more often than he's not. The defense is not delivering to the level that they are being paid at. I mean, the Steelers have a higher defensive payroll than any other team in the league, but they're also doing enough to win consistently enough. So that's kind of where they are. You know what the Steelers are? They're a plain bagel. Okay? They're not an everything bagel. I love everything bagels. I love blueberry bagels. If I'm going to a bagel shop and you have an everything bagel, yes, I want that. But, if you have a plain bagel, if that's all you have, you're out of cinnamon raisin, you're out of sesame, you're out of everything, you're out of blueberry, you only have plain bagels. Well, okay, that's fine. I'll have a plain bagel, but it's not my favorite choice.
Plain bagels are elite and better than every bagel you just mentioned, and it's not even close. So I'm a little shooketh up. But here's the thing.
No, plain bagels are fine. They're fine.
Everything bagels are trash. Everything bagels are what the rest of the Steelers season is going to be. Trash. Look, I'm going to be consistent here, and I've been consistent on this since the summer. If any of you watched Inside Coverage, our great football show, Frank Schwab and I talked about this a lot. And my over and over and over again point was that no team would start hotter than the Steelers. Everybody would fall in love with the Steelers, and then they would hit the meat of their schedule and would go to hell fast. They're 4-1 right now. But also, let's just acknowledge those 4 wins. A 2-point win over the Jets, who are awful. A 1-touchdown win over the Patriots in week 3, who at the time I think are still trying to figure out exactly who they are. They have a 3-point win over the Vikings with the backup quarterback that played like an absolute just terrible NFL player. And then they have a win over the Browns. When you look at what's left in front of them, they've got difficult games coming. They've got to go against the Packers. They've got to go against the Colts. Even if the Chargers are beat up, that's going to be difficult. The Bills are still going to be difficult for them. The Lions, they've got hard games left on this schedule. The Steelers aren't good. They're just beating the teams they should beat. They got lucky early in the season. They got some really trashy teams there. Now, I did, when I made my prediction that they would fall off, believe that the Ravens would be very good. And turns out that hasn't been correct at all. If the Ravens can ever get healthy and become the Baltimore they think we can be, they still have the Steelers twice this year. So I'm looking at a 4-1 team. Then I started the year saying they were going to start 4-1. That was actually a prediction I had this summer. And they would end 8-9. That was where I stood. The Ravens are worse than I thought they'd be, and the Bengals are without Joe Burrow. So it probably looks like they're headed to a 9-8 season instead. The Steelers are going to be fine, but the Steelers
9-8 wins
great.
The division.
Yeah, but 9-8. Okay, but this is where we couch what Steelers fans want. If 9-8, if Steelers fans can be okay with 9-8, winning the division and losing the first round of the playoffs, then great. Steelers are going to be fine. But this is a Steelers fan base that wants to fire Mike Tomlin because he can't win a playoff game. So if the only line of success is they must win a playoff game in order to make any of this season successful, I don't think the Steelers are going to be successful.
I agree that this season for the Steelers feels like it's more of the same of the results that we've gotten from the Steelers, which is fine. Fine. They're 9-8. They're 8-9. That's a plain bagel. They're fine. They will make the playoffs and they will lose in the first round of the playoffs. To your point, Those are not the expectations of the Steelers fan base. But what did the Steelers do this past offseason to prove to all of us that they are pushing all the chips in the middle to win a playoff game? Like, if you thought signing Aaron Rodgers to a 1-year deal was the biggest move the Steelers could make to win a playoff game, like, I have oceanfront property to sell you in Arizona. Like, they did
But
very
that's what Steelers fans
anti-Steelers
did
things.
think. Steelers fans did think that Aaron Rodgers was all in to win them a playoff game this year.
How? I'm sorry. Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Famer. I get that. This Aaron Rodgers is not that Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is the ace that you had up your sleeve. That was the crazy, tricky, wild thing to do to push yourselves over the edge. Was Aaron Rodgers at 41 years old? And they did very anti-Steelers thing this past offseason of as many transactions as they made. But they moved on from injured or older, expensive players past their prime and replaced them with older and expensive players past their prime. Like the Steelers just swapped spit and brought in an old quarterback in the twilight of his career. That's not like, whoa, the Steelers are really, going for it this year. Man, this is a roster that's constructed to win at Arrowhead. Of course not.
You and I see that. All right, Mike Tomlin might be a little spicy because he's tired of everybody yelling at him. I don't know. But he definitely took a shot at the Browns and Andrew Berry. We've got it here. I want you to check this out, and we'll see what we think about it.
To me, to be honest, it was shocking to me. Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us, because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feelings.
Not like at all the Joe Flacco trade to the Bengals, and I think it's interesting. And I don't know. Is it because it was an interdivision trade? Is it because it's a quarterback trade? Like, I just don't know what Tomlin's worked up about with it, but it's rare for Tomlin to come out and speak on somebody else's business like this. So it felt like that was a hell of a statement.
It's pretty bold of him to say that. He's not wrong. Like, I don't disagree with that. Like, hey, the Bengals are struggling mightily in the quarterback department. So you're going to trade a player to help them in that department in the division. Like, in hindsight, like, yes, like, I do see where Mike Tomlin's coming from. It does feel like a puzzling move on behalf of the Cleveland Browns. Like, you don't have to trade Joe Flacco. If the Browns wanted to start Dillon Gabriel and have Joe Flacco be his backup, they had every right to do that. Joe Flacco had to know that he was not coming into the season to be the starter for all 17 games. Like, they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to help a divisional opponent, and they did. Wild for Tomlin to say that. Wild for Tomlin to, throw shade at another team's general manager publicly in a press conference. But he's also not wrong.
So I do think it's wild that he said it. I also think he's right. Like, to some, this is let me take this angle on. Let me be clear here. If I'm dating somebody and she's crazy and we break up and my best friend comes in and says, hey man, mind if I take her out? No, man, you can have her. Go for it. Like, is there not an element of the Browns saw Flacco in the building every day and the Bengals call and they're like, I mean, if you want him, you can have him. Like, I realize we feel like there's a lifeline being sent to Cincinnati that's like helping them at the quarterback position, unless the Browns looked around and said, oh, no, he's not going to help you at all. So if you want to give us something for someone that is not going to help you at all, we'll take that. Like, there is some element here of maybe Andrew Berry and the Browns looked around and based on everything they've seen of Joe Flacco, they're like, well, we're not going to win with him, and you're not going to win with him either. So if you want to give us something in return to go take this quarterback that you won't win with, I'm not going to say no to that. Like, nobody should know that better than Andrew Berry. So I don't think it's necessarily that he's
But Andrew
smarter.
Berry was wrong.
Well, why?
He was wrong.
Why?
We saw a much more explosive pass attack from the Bengals against the Packers than we saw under Jake Browning. Like, what Joe Flacco's job is, hey, you come in, you stand here, you throw the ball to one of those two guys named Higgins and Chase. That's all that you have to do. get ball, throw ball, and those two guys will take care of it. Like, I know the Bengals won, but we were sitting here talking about it yesterday that, like, hey, now do Bengals fans have just like a little bit of hope that Joe Flacco can keep the pieces together with a bunch of tape and glue until Joe Burrow comes back?
I think the answer to that, though, is no, they don't have any hope. Like, I mean, the Bengals put up 18 points and lost by, what, 9? 10? They lost by 9 to the Packers. So now they're going to have the Steelers this week. They get the Jets, the Bears, the Steelers again, the Patriots. Like, do you really feel like they have a better shot of winning those games with Joe Flacco at the quarterback position than Jake Browning? I don't. I think they're both equally trash. I think they're both equally
I
trash.
think Jake Browning was that bad. Like, I think
I don't
Jake
disagree.
Browning.
I think Joe Flacco is also that bad.
I can't agree with that. Like, it's not like Joe Flacco is any sort of world beater, okay? It's not like Joe Flacco is like, having a career renaissance. But Jake Browning was so bad. So, like quarterbacked some of the worst offenses I have ever seen in the history of football. Bad. Joe Flacco, still not great, but not that bad. And how sad is that we are now here arguing about terrible versus really, really bad? Like, that. Poor Bengals fans.
We are describing exactly what Frank Schwab spent all night doing last night as he figured out his power rankings. Frank will join us next. We're going to call him out on it. We're going to figure it out. His power rankings were total garbage. We're about to just argue. That beautiful graphic can only mean one thing. It's time for some power rankings talk with the great Frank Schwab. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. You can check out Frank's power rankings out of Yahoo Sports. Frank, good morning, my friend. I'm sorry about the Brewers last night. We all love you, and now we're going to yell at you about power rankings. That's the sort of morning we're having here. Let's pull them up. We'll get right to it. We're going to take these in groups of 4, and then we're going to figure out each group of 4 what we like and what we don't like. So to look at your power rankings, at number 1, you have the Bucks, Lions 2, 3 Colts, 4 Bills. I don't know, Frank. Like, this is the Bills. The Bills have done nothing all year to actually beat any good team. You're convinced they're the 4th best team in the NFL right now?
Convinced is a strong word, I'll tell you this. Hey, look, this is my 13th NFL season at Yahoo, so I've been doing power rankings for 13 years. This, and probably there was a week here or there in 2018 or something, but this seems like the first week I've done this where I don't believe at all that my number 1 team is the best team of football. I do not. I picked the Buccaneers to go to a Super Bowl. I was the one out on that limb. The Buccaneers are 5-1. I should be doing victory laps. The Buccaneers are not the best team of football. They are not, but everybody else is losing. Nobody else. The parity has run amok this year. I have to put somebody in the top spot. Really couldn't be the Lions. They have 2 double-digit losses already, lost on Sunday night. Obviously not the Bills, although I do believe in the Bills long term. I think they'll get things figured out. The Colts, really? Do we think the Colts are the best team of football? Daniel Jones, quarterback in the best team of football? The Buccaneers are almost there by default. The Bills, yes. The Bills are just hey, I believe in this team long term, but they gave up 335 yards in the first half last night. You're right. Like I don't trust anybody at this point in the NFL season.
Why not the Colts? I get it. It feels icky.
Right.
But, like, is it just because it's Daniel Jones? Is it just because it's the Colts? Like, if we take away all logos, all colors, all names, all everything, would the Colts be the best team in football?
I think if you're just going off of, hey, we just landed in the NFL season week 1. We had no prior knowledge of anything that has happened. We're just going to watch the next 6 games and make a decision. Yes, I think you would have to put the Colts at number 1. They've played the best, but other things go along with this, like the Buccaneers. Like they have a track record. They've won division titles. They've been a good football team. The Lions went 15-2 last year. Okay, like yes, the Lions have lost 2 tough road games. One on Sunday without half of their secondary. I think they're better than the Colts. But if you just go off of results, the Colts have played better than everybody. They have quality wins. They are doing what they need to do now. They struggled against the Cardinals on Sunday. Now that was not an easy win for them, which should have been an easy win against Jacoby Brissett. Maybe that was in my mind too. I can't put the Colts in the number 1 spot. I can't. I know I just said the Bucs are not the best team of football, and I believe that. I do not believe the Bucs are the best team of football. I definitely know the Colts are not the best team of football. Okay, like if they win a Super Bowl. God bless Shane Steichen and Daniel Jones. I'll give them all the credit in the world, but I don't think anybody is rushing to the window right now to bet the Colts to win the Super Bowl, let's say.
All right, let's look at
Peyton
5
Manning,
through 8.
Andrew Luck, Daniel Jones.
Yeah,
Oh my
right.
God.
Johnny Unitas, Daniel Jones. Like
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones.
All right, let's pull up 5 through 8 because at 5 you have the Denver Broncos who barely showed up against the Jets, but some reason they go to 5. The Eagles are sitting at 6. Then the Packers are at 7, and the Chiefs at 8. I spent all week saying the Chiefs. But Caroline, make this make sense to me, Caroline.
I can't. Frank, the Chiefs at 8, 6 spots below the team that they just beat on Sunday Night Football? Walk me through the Kansas City Chiefs at 8.
The Chiefs are a 500 team. They are. Like, we have to acknowledge that results have to matter at some point. People were on me last week, all over me, and I'm sure they will be this week, having the Chiefs at 10. I was like, this isn't even controversial. Like, yeah, they were 2-3 at the time, but the Chiefs are, if we are just going off of what do I think this team's really going to be, the Chiefs might be as high as number 2, maybe number 1. Like, I think the Chiefs are going to be really good from here on out. Rashee Rice coming back. But we have to acknowledge they're a 500 team right now. They need to move up. They need to prove a little something. And yes, the Broncos barely showed up on Sunday, but the defense showed up, didn't they? They allowed -10 net passing yards, and we could just sit here and complain about the Jets all we want. But the Broncos defense had a role in that too. Broncos defense playing out of their minds. They won at Philly, which is maybe if we're doing the NCAA tournament selection committee thing and going off quality wins, that might be the biggest quality win in the NFL this season, beating the Eagles in Philadelphia. Okay, the first time they had lost really in a game Jalen Hurts started and finished in a calendar year. That matters a lot to me. They did beat the Jets. London games are weird. Their defense showed up. But yes, I'm sitting there looking at the Broncos saying, all right, guys, when's the offense going to get here? Like, it's week 6 now. It's mid-October. Is the offense going to show up this season or not? Like, so I believe in the Broncos. I think they're a good team. I think they actually deserve to be the number 5 right now. But yes, Bo Nix, come on, man. The season has started already, buddy. You might want to get going a little bit here if the Broncos are really going to be an AFC West contender.
If you had on a neutral field today, if you had Chiefs versus Broncos today with Rashee Rice back.
You know me too well. You know me too well. You know that's my tiebreaker. Neutral field, I'd pick the Chiefs. I'd pick the Chiefs right now. And that goes against what I do with power rankings is that's usually my tiebreaker, which team would win on a neutral field. But I couldn't put a 3-3 team in the top 5 right now. But maybe I should have because nobody's good. Nobody in the NFL. Who do you trust in the NFL? The answer is nobody right now.
Okay, let's look at the
Literally
next
nobody.
batch. Yeah, no, you're right, 100%. We'll take a look at the next batch here, and this would be 9 through 12, where we get at 9 the Seahawks, the 4-2 Seahawks, just sitting all the way down there, and then at 10 the Patriots, who I mean, just they have flown up your board. Rams at 11, Chargers at 12. Today on a neutral field, do you think the Patriots are better than the Rams?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, what have the Rams done lately? Like, the Rams lost at home to the 49ers JV team. They really struggled to put away the Ravens, who have nobody. That's a preseason lineup they're putting out there. They really, and then the Nakua injury does worry me. They have a tough road trip coming up to London to play the Jaguars, who I do think a lot of the Jaguars, Jaguars are pretty good. I just wonder that the Rams are in that lull of the season right now, already pretty early. I just haven't been impressed with them the last couple weeks. I really, and the Seahawks, I believe the Seahawks are going to win the NFC West. I believe, if I'm just being really, really, truly honest, who's the best team of football right now? Yes, who could it be? Well, the Lions, yeah, they're good, but I think secretly the Seahawks might be the best team of football. Seriously, I'm being dead serious when I say that. They are the only team in the NFL that is ranked in the top 4 of DVOA in offense, defense, and special teams. They could almost be 6-0 right now, but they blew 2 games at home, and that matters. And that's why they're down here at number 9, because you did blow 2 games at home. But I think the Seahawks are really, really good. The results haven't been there, so they can't be higher than 9 right now. But if you're asking me just, who do you think is the best team? Who do you think is really flying under the radar? I think it's Sam Darnold and the Seahawks. I just have a ton of respect for this team. I just wish they would stop blowing home games. That would help my cause.
A Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones. I mean, look at these.
This is what the season is, Caroline. Like, what are we doing? We're living in
Baker,
a
let's throw
simulation
Baker in
right
here too.
now.
Let's throw Baker.
Baker's my MVP right now. Baker is my. If I had to vote for MVP right now, and I don't even have a vote, I think Baker Mayfield's the MVP of the league right now. He's a 5-1, incredible highlights, great comeback wins. They're the number 1 seed in the NFC right now. That's usually the formula. I think Baker May. That's how crazy this NFL season is. If I had to vote right now, I think Baker Mayfield's the MVP.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
We'll take a look at the next batch. Let's bring the next batch up here. We have Atlanta at 13, rising 8 spots after last night. The Jags falling 6 spots after the weekend at 14. The Steelers just sitting there at 15, and the depleted San Francisco 49ers fall. Frank, man, were we in our fields last night? Got a lot of big reactions, and we got a lot of big ups, got a lot of big downs. What are we doing?
I get it. The one team that I struggled with is the Steelers, because they are 4-1, and I put the Buccaneers at 5-1, even though I don't really believe in them and what they've done so far with those close wins. I don't believe in the Steelers, period. I just don't. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't think this offense is good enough. The Aaron Rodgers story is really cool. I know nobody cares about Aaron Rodgers and hearing a great story about Aaron Rodgers, but it's cool. But the offense is so limited, and they struggled so much with a bad Browns team. The defense really saved the day against a Browns team that decided to drop back Dillon Gabriel 52 times for some odd reason. I have no idea. I think the Steelers should be higher, and I just can't do it. I just look at that team, and I'm like, not yet. Nah, I still think the Ravens can hunt them down for the division. I really do. When you look at the Ravens' schedule coming up, they're going to get on a roll here. Did I put the Falcons up a little too high? Maybe, but I was just watching that game last night against a Bills team I respect, and I think is going to be there by the end of the year. And I complained about the Bills' defense giving up 335 yards in the first half. Well, the Falcons put up 335 yards in the first half, and their defense is a lot better than I thought it would be. That's the one key. Like, over the Bills' last 10 possessions last night, they scored once. Josh Allen scored 1 out of 10 possessions against the Falcons defense. That really impressed me. That's why there's a big move up. I said, you know what? I've been a little low on the Falcons. That weird loss to the Panthers really was sticking with me, but beating the Bills like they did, that impressed me. And I think that's totally warranted a move up.
I called the Steelers my plain bagel team, because it's like they're not as good as everything or blueberry bagels. But like, if that's the only option, then like, okay, that's fine, whatever. It does feel like 15, 16, like hovering right around the mucky middle of the league is the perfect place for the Steelers. That they're just, they're fine. Like, they're fine.
They're there.
In terms of the Falcons, they're fine. In terms of the Falcons, how much of this ranking and how much of this 8-spot ascension is based off of what we saw last night, which was great. Like you said, 330 yards in the first half alone, Bijan Robinson and Drake London going off.
Whew.
How much of that is what they did? And how much of that is a projection for what you think the Falcons can do the rest of the season?
Yeah, good question, because it is a lot of what they did last night, because you're just sitting there saying they're just destroying a team that coming into that game was the Super Bowl favorite, betting wise. Like, at BetMGM, the Bills were the Super Bowl favorite, and the Falcons completely outplayed. It felt like they won that game by like 30 points. It really did. They completely outplayed the Bills, who I realized were in the game at the end, but they really were not. They were completely outplayed. And yes, going forward, you look at the Falcons and you're like, man, Michael Penix is going to play this way, and the defense is going to play this way. Look, we all criticize the Falcons' moves in the draft, right? How dare you trade a future first and blah, blah, blah. I think they realize we need pass rushers. We just need to fix this now, and we can be a competitive team. And you're seeing that show up. That it's the defense more than the offense. I can sit here and talk about Penix and Drake London and Bijan, and they're all awesome. It's the defense that's really impressing me. This defense, which completely shut down the Vikings in week 2, if we go back to that game, that ugly game the Vikings played, it's the defense has made the difference for the Falcons. And I just think this was a correction for me. It was, I see you Falcons. I see what you did against the Bills. And yes, going forward, I'm going to put a little respect on your name. You deserve it, because you play defense like this, and Michael Penix is going to play like this. I'm pretty impressed.
Why do you hate the Jags? I know we got to move on, but just curious. I mean, the Jags lost to the team you just said is the best team in the NFL. Why do you hate the Jags?
Yeah, the Jaguars are one of these teams where I when you watch them, you're like, it doesn't look all right. They make mental mistakes. Trevor Lawrence is getting better. He did actually play well. He probably played his best game of the season on Sunday. Crazy enough, in a game they lost, I thought he was really efficient. But there's just something holding me back about the Jags. Again, a team I picked to win the division. I'm not a Jags hater by any means, but dumb mistakes, and the passing game has been disjointed. They're still figuring out Travis Hunter. I don't know. I just feel like that Jags 4-1 start was a little bit of a house of cards.
All right, let's pull up the next grouping that we have here, and we've got the Bears coming in at 17, the Commanders at 18, the Vikings at 19, the Texans at 20. Frank, I mean, how much did the Bears change because of last night?
Not a ton. I mean, whatever. If Jayden Daniels doesn't drop that handoff, they're going to lose that game and blow it, honestly. They were good early and then just disappeared for a while. So Bears got a little lucky last night, but that's fine. Catching wins right now is good. It's a good thing to be lucky at winning games. You don't want to be the opposite. So the Bears winning that game was good. It was fine. It was a quality road win, but yet I'm not like, oh my goodness, the Bears have arrived. Not like I was with the Falcons just destroying the Bills in the other Monday night game. It was a good, solid win. I still have questions about this team. I still have questions if Caleb Williams is really going to ball out, because there were times last night you're like, oh my goodness, Caleb Williams. And then there are times when you're like, even Ben Johnson was like, we got the ball back at midfield, a chance to win the game. Let's give the ball to DeAndre Swift every single play. I mean, does that happen in Buffalo? Does that happen in Baltimore when Lamar Jackson's healthy? No. They let the quarterback go win the game. So I still have a few reservations about the Bears. They're good. They're solid. The Bears fans should be happy with the progress of that team, but I don't put them in the top half of the league quite yet. I still need to see a little more.
And looking at this group, they're all fair questions about all 4 of those teams. But you look at the Vikings and the Bears with 2 of the better teams in the NFL in their division, in the Packers and the Lions. The Texans now in a much deeper division than any of us thought, with the Jags
Right.
and the Colts, not the Titans. They stink. The Commanders, in the NFC East, that feels really exciting. Like the Giants are far more exciting than I ever thought they would be. So looking at this group of 4, are any of these teams playoff teams?
The Texans are the one that's really interesting to me. I think any one of these 4 could be playoff teams. I like the Vikings. I think the Bears are improving and could get, if they continue to get Ben Johnson's offense down, they could make a run here. The Texans are interesting to me because they do one thing really, really, really well. They're allowing 12.2 points per game. That defense is awesome. Since the merger, 1970, only 4 teams have allowed less than 12.2 points per game. Like, this is almost a historic run for the Texans defense. I trust them. I just don't know about the offense. The offense has looked better the last couple of weeks. Well, who was that against? It was against the Titans, and it was against the Ravens, who had nobody to throw out there. So I just wonder, is this sustainable for the Texans on offense? The offensive line issues haven't been fixed. So if C.J. Stroud and that offense are solid, average, I think they can make a run to the playoffs. I think they could end up winning that division just because the defense has been again, historically good. We're comparing them to like the 2000 Ravens based on how many points they've given up per game. So yeah, the Texans are the one team in that foursome that's interesting just because their defense has been so dominant.
All right, the next grouping that we got up here, we've got Baltimore at 21, the injury-ravaged Ravens.
Don't know what to do
The
with
Panthers at 22. Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys at 23, the Giants at 24. Caroline, what stands out here for you?
Yeah, a whole lot of swimming through the sea of suck. But if I look at there's a lot of suck, but at least a lot of reason for optimism. Like, I don't know, the Giants with Cam Scatterbo and Jackson Dart. I don't know, the Cowboys with Dak Prescott. I don't know, the Panthers, Rico Dowdle in 2 back-to-back 200-plus yards games.
Goodness.
But looking at this group, my goodness, what's the most surprising to you? Either good or bad?
It got to be the Ravens. And I still don't know what to do with them because I sit here and say, all right, you get the bye week this week. If you look at their schedule coming up, it's about a 7-game stretch where you're like, they could win every one of these games if their defense just gets a little bit better. And maybe it does with guys getting healthy. You give that coaching staff a week to make adjustments. I do believe in that coaching staff still. Maybe not the Zach Orr, their defense coordinator. He's the one on the hot seat right now, I think. But I can see the path forward for the Ravens where we're sitting here in 2 months saying, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have had the Ravens down at 19 because they're still a really good football team. We're losing a ton of games, which they certainly have. Cowboys are interesting because the Cowboys have failed Dak Prescott, period. Like, this is the 2024 Bengals, period. Last year, the Bengals had an MVP level performance from Joe Burrow and did not make the playoffs. They absolutely failed Joe Burrow, and the Cowboys are doing the same to Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's playing out of his mind this year. And they're 2-3-1. Like, come on. Like, what are we doing here, Jerry? Like, that has to get better. But yes, of this group of teams, the Ravens aren't just the toughest group to rank this year. They're one of the tougher teams I've ranked, period, ever. Because, again, this is not a 1-5 team, and we all know that. We all understand this team will get better. They will make a run. They have Lamar Jackson. He's probably coming back after the bye week. So I don't know what to do with the Ravens. I can't put a 1-5 team higher than 19, but at the same time, I don't think that this is the 19th best team in football. I think they're much, much better than that.
All right, let's look at the next group then. The next one gets into the now we're really into the sea of suck. The Cardinals, the Browns, the Raiders, and the Bengals is your next 4. Of these 4, which team do you think has the best shot to not be in the bottom of the league standings by the end of the year? Who can turn it around?
Yeah, and
I'm just shocked the Browns are better than 6 teams in the NFL.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But the thing is, the Browns play defense every week. Like, if you're asking me, like, what path is there up the standings for any of these teams? I say, well, there's really not any. By the way, maybe the Cardinals' path is starting Jacoby Brissett. Were we just going to gloss over that the Cardinals actually look better without Kyler Murray on the field? I don't know. I'm just saying, against a 5-1 Colts team, they had their best offensive performance of the season with Kyler Murray on the bench. Okay, that's kind of telling, isn't it? But the one team here is the Browns, because not that I think Dillon Gabriel is the be-all, end-all, and I don't want to get into the conversation about the QB2 there. I just think that if one unit of this foursome, it's the Browns defense. The Browns defense is fantastic. They're really, really good. They can keep them in every single game. That's why I put some respect on the Browns. Even like you said, like there's 6 teams worse than the Browns. It's because I watch the Browns every week, and I'm like, at least the defense is competing. The defense is keeping this team in games, which most of the teams in this bottom 8 are just done, just drawing dead already in mid-October.
All right, let's get to the very, very bottom of the bottom. At 29, you have the Saints.
There's a lot
the
of
Dolphins
bottom.
at 30. Yeah. The Titans fire their coach. That's 31. You think you'd give them just a little pop for that. And the Jets at 32. Frank, you wrote that the Jets could go 0-17. You really think they're that bad?
They're playing that way. They won't go 0-17. They're going to find a win somehow. But there's just nothing out of this team. Like, Justin Fields should not be starting anymore. When you quarterback, you hold the ball like it's your firstborn child, and you take 9 sacks because you're just sitting there holding it against a really, really good Broncos defense. You're just lost. Like, you don't know how to play right now. And Aaron Glenn has not said what they're going to do at quarterback this week. He has defended Justin Fields. It's going to be very interesting to see on Wednesday what he says, because if I'm the Jets, I don't start Justin Fields again. I just can't. I can't watch that anymore. Like, he has been awful, absolutely positively awful this season. I don't think they're going 0-17. I don't even think they're the worst team in football. Honestly, I think the Titans are worse. If I had to be honest, I think the Titans are worse. They're so bad right now, and I don't think that Mike McCoy is turning that thing around. But yes, the Jets are unwatchable. That game in London was one of the worst NFL games I've seen in a long time.
There's a lot of bad. The Dolphins too, with Tua's comments about leadership. Like, I think that just kind of opened the door for the reason why this team has gotten as bad as they are. To your point though about the Titans, they're dreadful. Yes, Mike McCoy is not going to be the guy that turns it around. Who is? Like, who would be on your short list for guys the Titans should take a look at?
And I think it almost has to be an offensive coach, but it's hard to identify somebody because here's my thing with the Titans is that's not a good job. You have to be convinced. The only selling point they have is Cam Ward. And I know nobody wants to talk about this because all of the tape guys love Cam Ward. Oh, look at this splash play he made. Look at his throw. Look at his arm. Cam Ward's not playing well. Can we be honest about that? I get it. The coaching's been bad. He doesn't have a lot around him. Cam Ward is not playing good football right now, period. Like, if I'm hitching my wagon in my coaching career to somebody, I want to see a little more out of that guy than what Cam Ward has shown so far. And I love Cam Ward. I've defended Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward's going to be fine going forward, but we have no questions about Cam Ward. It's just, it's the coaching. Oh, look at the teammates around him. I get all that. Cam Ward ain't holding up his end of the bargain either. So if that's a question for coaches, what else? Ownership is terrible in Tennessee. I think that it seems like they don't have a ton of money to pay any of these guys. This might be a job like the Saints last year. Remember, the Saints were the last team to hire anybody because basically everybody was like, I don't want to come play for your organization. You don't have a lot to sell me. And they ended up with Kellen Moore because they're one of 32. Kellen will give you a head coaching job, and Kellen Moore's like, okay, they're one of 32. I can't pass up this opportunity. I think the Titans might be the same way. I don't think they're going to get one of the best candidates. Everybody's going to say they will. Everybody's going to say, every young coach wants to coach Cam Ward. I don't know that that's the case. And there's so many other negatives that even if you like Cam Ward, you have to think twice about getting involved with the Titans right now.
What would you think of my pitch earlier was Mike McCarthy. We threw out some names. I threw out McCarthy, and then Caroline threw out Joe Brady. What do you think of those?
Yeah, love that. Any guy like that, any good, and I like actually McCarthy a little more because he has the experience, he has the track record. But I see the Joe Brady point too. Very smart offensive guy. It's not going to cost as much maybe as Mike McCarthy, which I guess matters to the Titans right now, based on Charles Robinson, what he was talking about on Inside Coverage yesterday. So I like both of those names. There's going to be other offensive coaches to kind of emerge through the year that you're going to look at. But yes, a guy like a McCarthy. They need a culture. They need a total reset. Why did they fire Mike Vrabel? Why did you fire Mike Vrabel? He would have been the guy. Like, if you would, just a dumb organization and a bad organization, and one that I feel bad for Cam Ward. He's not playing well, as I just said, but boy, is he stuck. He is stuck in a sea of suck, as you guys like to say. They need to nail this hire. They need to absolutely positively hit this one out of the park.
I'm just going to tell the world right now, you might as well just start learning the name Josh Grizzard. He's the offensive coordinator for the Bucs. Every year, the offensive coordinator for the Bucs gets your head coaching jobs.
Baker,
the head coach maker. Let's go.
Yep.
Baker, coach maker.
There we go. Frank, great work as always. Your rankings sucked, and that gave us plenty to talk about. We appreciate your time, my friend, as always.
It's hard to rank teams when nobody's good, Fitz. It's hard to rank teams when nobody's good, I'll tell you.
Yeah, thanks for your time,
fair.
Frank. You suck.
There we go. Perfect. That's the glowing endorsement Frank didn't know he needed. Check out the power rankings in their totality on Yahoo Sports. I think we have a graphic here that shows you the biggest movers, shakers. We'll see if we can get that up on that. But overall, I think he makes a great point. You just see it there. At number 1, Tampa Bay. At number 32, the New York Jets. I don't think that's a big surprise at 32. Top riser is the Falcons. Also not a huge surprise to me. Top faller, the 49ers. I think that has a lot to do with injury. When you look at the rankings right there, they didn't suck at all. That looks like it's pretty good work, Caroline.
I mean, the only thing that's maybe a little bit shocking is Tampa Bay at number 1. But then you ask yourself, who deserves to be at number 1 over Tampa Bay? If you take out bias, if you take out, everything that we think these teams should be. We think the Chiefs should be Super Bowl contenders. We think the Bills should be Super Bowl contenders. If you take out all of those things, because those things don't matter, who deserves to be the number 1 team in all the land? It's not the Lions. They just lost.
Some of these subconscious bias that we talk about, like, they exist for a reason. Like, you trust the Eagles. Like right now, if you had to bet your house, Tampa Bay versus Philly on a neutral field, I mean, Tampa Bay's won a lot of close games this year, but it's still Philly, and you've seen Philly win a Super Bowl. Like they're still the Chiefs. I mean, that's the hard part about this is like if you want to make it as simple as if these two teams played, who you got? I don't think there's always an easy answer.
Mm-hmm. There isn't. And I'm fine with Tampa Bay at the number 1 spot. I mean, I picked Baker to be my MVP as well. Do I think that Tampa Bay will be the number 1 team in all the land once the season is done? No, I don't, but that's not fair. I can't make rankings based off of projections. But yeah, the Jets definitely deserve to be at number 32. The Jets are truly terrible. And I do wonder, we talk about coaching changes in Tennessee. I think it's too early to talk about a coaching change in New York, but I'm sure they're talking about that. I'm sure they're talking about Aaron Glenn's job security at this point.
Yeah, it feels more and more like it's one and done every day. We're not one and done. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. from 9 to 11 for Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fett, and I'm Jason Fitz. Thanks so much for watching. Come back tomorrow.